and then throw up your Twitter if you get a shot. Hey, welcome, folks. This is Mike Kegley. We are here talking about the post game, Tennessee and Illinois. And, folks, this was an interesting one, to say the least. Basically, Illinois got hit with turnovers at inopportune moments. I really think if they clean up how they run offense the last 5 minutes of a game, this team has a shot to be really, really good.
Mike, there's just so much to unravel here with this game. I don't know. I don't know where to start. Typically, I have some concerns, obviously, but and I'm not going to hide them. I will occasionally, protect the player, but I'm just going to say what I say today, and I just got to get dealt with it. And I would challenge anybody who's listening to the podcast, get on and respond to it. I mean, just get on and respond to what I saw. I mean, and there's going to be a blame to go around from things they should have done, who could have played, should have played, didn't play. But I'm going to start this podcast out with two people. Okay. Ben Humrickhouse played 30 minutes and had one rebound. I know it's painful. I'm asking all Illinois fans out there to, if you can go back and watch this game, watch how many times people beat him to the basketball to go get a rebound. I'm talking get in front of him, step in front of him. They run from the perimeter to get in front of him. If he gets the rebound, they take it. One rebound in 30 minutes. And as great as those step back shots are for Casperas, I know the fans love it. He had 7 turnovers. 5 of the 7 turnovers were unforced. Okay, we can talk about the NBA. I had one NBA scout call me Thursday night at 11 o'clock and say me he's high-risk rewards. But if you want to deal with that, then great. Because the stuff that he's calling, Mike, we've done too many podcasts. I told you, teams are going to do that. They'll just take the ball from him. He's sloppy throwing the ball in bounds. I don't care about the high-risk rewards. Let's do the math. Let's do preschool math. 7 turnovers, minimum is 14 points, man. You just give them the ball, and they're going to turn over. I totally understand you're going to turn the ball over. But, Mike, they had 11 turnovers total. He had 7 of them.
Yeah, and there were some key ones down the stretch. It's kind of funny because playing against a team that plays as good a defense as Tennessee in 11 turnover games actually pretty good. But you can't have them all be from, predominantly one guy, and you can't have them be the guy who's got the ball in the last few minutes of the game.
And at crucial times. Times. Taking the ball out of bounds. Underneath the basket, he just gets stripped. I mean, I would do it to him every time. And obviously, I don't think that fouls. It's happened in 10 games this year. And it's going to continue to happen. He has to learn. That's my thing. Learn from your mistakes. And I don't know if he's done it or not. Right now, I've never said this ever. I would like to see Will Riley start over Ben Humrickhouse. I do, because he's at least going to give you some offensive points. He's going to defend, and he's going to go try to rebound. He is at least going to give you that. I don't care if Will Riley is 12 years old or he's in 3rd grade. He is going to give you more. He played a total. Let's look at his numbers here. He played 20 minutes and gave them 5 rebounds. Was that right? Let me see here.
Yeah.
5 rebounds, and he gave him 10 points. He was 8 for 9. And he's not rebounding. So what is the point? He's not making shots. He was 2 for 5 today. And you know what? We can all get excited about the tip dunk. I wasn't fascinated by that. I want you to rebound. I want you to make shots. I don't want to see Will Riley turn the ball over at crucial times. I just don't. It's frustrating to watch that. It is, and I'm sorry. I'm not saying that's why they lost the game, but it certainly didn't help. I can tell you that.
Well, I tell you, it's to me the last play. Now again, you can take apart the last play, and it's just one moment in time. But what got me on the last play was Boswell, who's a great on-ball defender. You talk about playing a man and a half. All he had to do was step over and seal off that drive lane, and Ivicic was there. All he had to do was step forward. You had 2 guys there who should have easily
3. Trey White
been
was
able.
one too, Mike. He was
Yeah.
another one.
And so that should have, and then Yakusionis, he's got to play a little better defense than that. Once you get him back on his heels, he has a hard time. You could tell he just, when it came at him, he was just off balance from the beginning. But you don't want to see that happen, in the end. And right now, this is where, to me, the decision of Ty Rodgers to redshirt this year is a killer, because he provides that defense. And Illini fans, last year were merciless to Ty. And of course, you and I weren't, because we've coached before and we know how hard it is to get somebody to get those rebounds, to block out those guys, to play the defense at the key moment. But you give me a Ty Rodgers for 10 minutes, 15 minutes this game, and maybe he only scores 4 points, but he probably gets 6 boards and helps out on a couple plays. And I thought Morez could have played more as well, because he plays really good defense. And I think, I know fans don't want to hear it, and I know we're old guys who are yelling at clouds right now. But I get the fact that I listen to podcasts and I hear coaches talking about speeding up the game and pace, but sometimes it comes down to the fact you win a game because all you need is 2 more stops during this whole game and Illinois wins. I'm not saying you're going to get a guy out there who's going to handcuff everybody, but you get 2 more stops and Illinois wins. You can't tell me Ty Rodgers or Morez wouldn't have maybe got a stop or 2, 1 each.
Stop, a rebound, and Mike, they have to learn how to get the ball in bounds. That is frustrating. I don't know. I'm not in timeouts. I'm not going to blame the coaches. I'm not going to blame the players, but I'm going to blame somebody for not getting the ball in bounds. So whoever wants to flip a coin and take it, you can't just stand there against a good defensive team and do jab steps and think you're going to get open. They are aggressive defensively. Look at the numbers. They're the number 1 defensive team in the country. You think they're going to sit back on their heels on a road game? They came, and I don't call it, it's a bad loss to me. The reason it's a bad loss, you were at home, you have the number 1 team in the country on the ropes. It's a bad loss. You had them, you had a 5-point lead, 6-point lead, and then you couldn't come down, like you said, and get stops.
Well, but that's this team. This team, and I've told people, going into this season, this team is going to be a development in progress, because there's so many guys. They may not be necessarily young on the calendar, but they haven't played much D1 ball, and so you've got, you got Trey White and you got Boswell, and that's the only a ton of experience that you have. I guess Booth and DGL a little bit, but and the fact of the matter is it's going to take time for these guys to gel, and they're going to learn. But boy, they really do play well the first 35 minutes of a game, and the last 5 minutes is what has given them trouble. And they have to value the ball a little more. And that comes in 2 forms in my book, valuing the ball. One is, don't turn the dang thing over. And then the second thing is get every rebound. And when Underwood lit a fire a few games ago, Arkansas, they went out and rebounded extremely well. Today, I think they did a little bit better in the second half, but you can't allow teams to rebound on you offensively as much as Tennessee was allowed to do today. And again, as we talked at the half, Tennessee had 11 offensive rebounds at the half. Now, Illinois did better in the second half, holding them to 6. But how many games are you going to win, Ked, that you give up 17 offensive rebounds?
Mike, again, let's do the math. I have an assignment for you. Hopefully one of these podcasts we can figure out how we can pull up Ked's drawing board. They block out. There was times, Mike, they blocked out so well the ball hit the floor. So that's effort, athleticism, heart desire. You call it what you want. Okay, I mentioned KJ's turnovers, 7 is 14. You give up 6 offensive rebounds, Mike. That's 12 points. Maybe they hit a 3 and 15, 16, 17 points. Who knows? But those are things that you can't do. The frustrating part to me is this. I'm going to use I know there's apples and oranges. I'm going to compare KJ to Jeremiah Fears. Both are young kids. The knock on Jeremiah Fears was the same as KJ's. They both turn the ball over too much. But one kid is figuring it out and one isn't. And they're playing the same amount of games. He cannot be that loose with the ball. They are going to constantly strip him of the ball all the time. And I mean, the rebounding, if the one guy, we know Morez is going to rebound, and that's one guy. And like I said to you, I am not going to sit here and make this personal with people, but if I had $1 for every person that has texted me in the last 30 minutes about Ben Humrichhouse's 5 points and 1 rebound, I could pay your house off tonight, Mike. I'm telling you,
it's hard. It's hard for me to blame everything on one guy, but
it's
I will
not,
say,
but Mike. It's too many games. We didn't lose the game. They didn't lose the game because of him. Mike, this needs to be fixed all the time. We saw what Northwestern did. They exposed him. We saw it. He has to give more effort than that. He's 6'9". It would be different if he was 5'9", but he's not, and he's getting 30 minutes a game. You could look at guys that play 4 and 5 minutes a game. That's going to give you that. Morez played 12 minutes, Mike, and what did he give? He gave 2 rebounds. That's what I'm saying to you. He's getting too many minutes to not be productive. That's my point. No, they didn't lose the game because of him. There was too many opportunities, Mike, that they had to win the game. You have to learn now. A quarter of the season is over. You can't tell me right now that I'm telling you what they're going to do to KJ. You don't think other teams are going to do it? You can't put the ball out in front of you. You can't play and dance with it. You can't go to the basket and flop and think they're going to call fouls every time, because they're not.
Well, I do think that that's one of the things that they do have to get, and I think Illinois across the board and most teams have these moments, but you can't go and into the rim and before your shots even if it's even went in or out, look at the referee. You just got to play, because if you start playing to the refs, you're in big trouble. And as I look at it, I tend to look at these things as with the key turnovers down the stretch, you don't get a shot off. So a lot of people go, well, the offense is the problem, and yes, the offense is part of it. And I think they're going to have to figure out the spacing game, and maybe people will disagree with this take, but the bottom line is they don't have a lot of guys who can create their own shots right now.
No.
So they're going to have to space the ball, and they're going to have to work together on this. And they just those turnovers are a killer. And then the other thing that we've talked about is the rebounding game. Again, they cleaned it up a lot in the second half. So you got to give the Illini credit for that. But you got to find a way to get more boards, because that either A, gives you a new possession or continues an existing one. And either way, that's how you kill people. And so I guess I'm less worried about their pure shooting percentage, and I'm more worried about what they need to do to get each other open shots. I mean, and there were, you're going to get, with young kids, with Riley and Kasparis, you're going to get some crazy shots that older guys probably wouldn't take. But
Mike, the good thing about those two is that they're not afraid. I mean, they're not. I'll tell you what else I would have done. With 5 seconds or 4.5 seconds on the clock, they wouldn't have been me. They would have had to work to get that ball up the court. Just giving them a free reign like that. And Mike, you mentioned it. The one guy who I thought really should have helped out more than anybody should have been Avicic. I think he was worried about giving up the pass. With 5 seconds on the clock, you go block the shot, or you at least make him shoot over the top of you to give yourself a chance. Getting the ball in bounds is like a full-time job. I don't understand it. I mean, I think what it seems like they're doing is they're getting the ball in bounds, then they're calling the play. But teams are making it tough for them to get the ball in bounds. And if Kasparis can't get the ball in bounds, I know a lot of coaches like to do this. A lot of coaches like to have their point guards throw the ball in bounds because they're a better passer. I don't like that philosophy. I want the best passer. He may not be a point guard. To be truthful with you, if I'm going to have somebody throw the ball in bounds on this team, it's probably going to be Will Riley because he's tall enough, and he typically he doesn't turn it over a lot. He just doesn't, and he's not afraid. He will be the guy right now. I'm telling you, if I'm making a change, things are different. They've lost games. They should have beat Tennessee. They lost. They should, in my personal opinion, beat Alabama. Think about it. Those are two teams that they could have beaten that were highly ranked and costly little mistakes. You get a pass with the Alabama game because it's early. Okay, totally understand that, but not now. Now, when they're going to have a chance to play Missouri and some of the Big Ten schools, when they play Duke, who's another defensive team, they're hard to score on. You think that's going to be easy for them? I don't want to see the same mistakes. I want them to learn to get the ball in bounds, to learn how to run offense, to learn how to block out. I would run a practice with nothing but just block out drills. I'm sorry, you got to score too, but if guys aren't going to rebound and play defense, I heard a radio interview today, and this guy was from Tennessee, and here's what he said. When you look at Brad Underwood's team, here's their staple. We see other things because we cover it. But when people out in the country, this is what this guy said on the radio today. He was a reporter from Tennessee. When you look at Illinois basketball, the one thing you're going to get is Brad Underwood teams are going to play hard. And they played hard. They always play hard. But it's the little things. You can play hard, still mistakes, and lose. Play hard and play smart.
Yeah, and the inbounding has been it's been kind of remember some of DeMonte Williams' struggles, years ago with the inbounding. That's been kind of an ongoing deal. I like I said, there's a lot of people who are wanting to go after certain players, and again, I look at it more as you've got to get them playing together, and I think ultimately, you don't want to shatter Hum Rickhouse's confidence. And what I would like to see him do is, we keep hearing that he was really good in the pick and roll. Run some stuff for him that he was good at and get him started. Ked, when I had shooters who were struggling, I always tried to get them a layup, get them feeling good about themselves early in the game to see if that could help them get going, from a standpoint of, making a few shots. You make a couple layups, you feel good about yourself. Now that three isn't quite so foreboding to you.
I understand about giving players support and confidence. It is not a crime to change your lineup to bench someone. Maybe on the flip side, let's flip a coin. Maybe it may wake him up. Get him off the bench. Sub him in. He may be a better player off the bench. He is not producing right now. I don't want anyone to text me. Don't call me. Don't at me. He is not productive right now. I'm not blind. I can see it. And I'm not mad at the kid. I like the kid. He is a great person to interview. He is struggling. Mike, you mentioned the pick and roll, and you're right. I told you that, the last podcast. That's what they brought. He was good at that at Evansville. But right now, at Illinois, he is to shoot the basketball. And he's not doing that well right now. And it's not that I'm mad at him and you just throw him to the curb. No, I'm not saying that. Either get him some layups, which right now, Illinois, they like to shoot dunks, or threes. The mid-range game, I don't think they're fans of those shots. And it's not just me. They play the analytics, and you heard, announcers say the same thing. They don't like it. So if that's the case, then you're not going to get the little pick and roll at 15-foot shots from him because he's not allowed to do it. We can say the numbers, but I know this. His numbers for the amount of time he plays at 6'9", and Robbie Hummel made a comment about his first rebound was that tip dunk. That was his rebound. All the game long, in 20 minutes of action, you tell me he couldn't block out and get one rebound? That tip dunk was his only one. That's what I'm saying to you. And you can't tell me that Morez in 20 minutes would have got you more points, and I know damn well he'd have got you 5 rebounds.
I agree with
Those
that.
Rebounds are possessions, Mike.
I'm with you there.
So
now, I see this one here. I'm tired of learning lessons. Well, hey, guess what? This is the best way. I read this. This is the best way to tell me you never managed a person or coached anything in your life. Because the bottom line is if you think, for all the issues Brad Underwood has, if you think he's trying not to lose, you just don't know Brad Underwood. I will tell you that. But I mean, in terms of learning lessons, that's what coaches do with these guys. And you can say this team would be 10-0, but Jesus Christ, there's another team out there that's trying to beat them. And some fans are like, oh, our team should win every game. This is the type of crap I read from people who think every year Illinois should be 34-0, and they're actually serious. There's another team out there that is trying to beat you. And when you have a bunch of guys, whether you want to admit it or not as a fan, but if you have a bunch of guys who are new in the Big Ten, they got to figure out how to play this level of game, and they have to learn how to play it together. I look at this team this year, and I do think the Northwestern game probably should have been a win, and you can create scenarios where you can say Alabama should have been a win, Tennessee, Northwestern, but there are 5 guys on the other team that are on the court that are also making a difference as well. So when I have to hear something like, I'm tired of learning lessons, well, these guys got to figure out how to play at a very high level against really good athletes who don't want to lose. So if you don't want your guys to learn lessons, then you better hope that all they get out of the transfer portal is a bunch of fifth-year guys, and you can rotate through them every year because they're going to have to learn lessons. That's the nature of coaching. I mean, no offense. I don't get that one at all.
I think what he's trying to say, and I could be wrong, is that I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for the person who made this comment. You're right, Mike, you're right, because there's the other team, and, we can always say if and buts. I think what this person's trying to explain, the mistakes that they're making, the small mistakes, the little things, like the Northwestern game, to make an adjustment today, not letting Kasparis take the ball out of bounds. Just a number of things. A number of things went wrong to me. And I'm sorry, like I said to you. And maybe that's what he's trying to say. And you're not going to win every game. But
that's my point, though. People forget so often. People forget so often. Everybody's like, well, people get, they're like, oh, yeah, Brett Bielema did this wrong. Brett Bielema did that wrong. And it's like, good Lord, these coaches are doing everything they can to win. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the players don't do what they're supposed to do. Sometimes they drew it up and it just didn't happen. I mean, good Lord. Hey, Brad, what are your thoughts coming out of this game?
Oh, man, that was a tough one to swallow because Illinois really, controlled the game for most of the game. I mean, they controlled the action for most of the night. Did a great job defensively, I thought. Missed some open shots early where they had opportunities. And then, I thought there was a stretch when they were up 6. They had 3 bad possessions in a row offensively where they let them kind of get back in and missed. And I hate to say it, but they have to – the Euro guys have to get tougher. They're extremely skilled, but Ivasic and Yakichonis have to get tougher. They lose the ball too much. They don't get the ball enough. They miss easy shots. They miss layups when they get bumped. And, they're too good for that. And I think that's the thing. Will Riley's got to get a little tougher. We saw him get to the paint and then miss shots. And, he shoots, 1 for 9, 1 for 10. KJ's 5 for 15, but, and Ivasic only gets 5 shots off. So those guys are your three of your best scorers. They have to be a little tougher, I thought. But I thought Illinois played, they competed. I mean, I thought they would win this game, but I thought it would be I thought they had to shoot 35% from 3 to win this game. And obviously, if they had, they would have won handily, but they didn't. And so they had to gut it out and didn't make plays. And, Brad Underwood said he should have called timeout. He's right. Just because when guys start going downhill in that situation, there's no point not helping. There's not enough time for them to throw it to the weak side. I mean, once that guy went inside, everybody from the weak side should have been over there on the ball.
We said
because
that,
he
Brad.
can't throw it cross court and make that play. But if you call timeout, then you tell your guys that. Because they are young and they don't understand. They haven't been in these high leverage situations, and so they're going to make mistakes. And I think that was bad. And we have, and I know we may get some flack for this one, but I thought that they really did a poor job inbounding the ball all day.
Oh my
it was
God.
difficult.
Man,
they had
one listening to us, buddy.
They had one really good inbounds play where they read what Tennessee had done. Oswald gets a layup and one. That'll start the second half. It ran a great inbounds play in that situation. But the baseline side of that outbounds play. Now, I'm going to explain. I'm going to caveat this. Illinois has been over time. There was one year a couple years ago when Underwood was number one or 99th percentile in scoring on out of bounds plays, and people wouldn't believe that because it's not the way that they want it to be done. I think a lot of people think like you do the screen for a screener action, you get a layup like you do in junior high basketball. But
Yeah.
there are some things that you can do. But I really think today they were really bad. Now some of that's Tennessee. You got to give them credit; they're really good, and they do a great job. But at the same time, Illinois has to set better screens. Part of that's that toughness that they just don't have. They're not tough physically. They don't set solid screens. They get bumped. They get run through, and it's just it's kind of the whole thing. It just even the play there. I got the ball on the sideline, and they give up they got the ball and they're trying to inbound it, and they give up the pick two on literally a play where you just got to seal your guy and make an inbounds pass. I mean, I didn't think it's not very imaginative, but at the same time, just get it in bounds. I mean, I've never understood the get open. It's one-on-one, and they do this all game long, even in the backcourt. If a guy's guarding them, they just wait for somebody else to go get the ball. It's like, no, just get open. There's one guy guarding you. Get open. You have the entire court. Get open. And I don't understand it, like the mindset that they have when it comes to that. It's a little bit lackadaisical, a little bit kind of, it's fine. Lackadaisical.
Chad, you look like you had something to say there.
I do. I want to comment on what he said because Brad, we're losing your signal for a second. I want to say two things. Brad, what the hell are we going to get grief for about getting the ball in bounds? We saw it. We shouldn't get grief for anything. They couldn't do it. So there's no grief to be had from anybody saying what the obvious truth is. There are millions of people who watch that basketball game. There are commentators. There's other coaches. Us saying that doesn't make us bad people. It's a fact. And to be honest with you, what I don't understand, and Brad is 1,000,000% correct. If it's one person, all you have to do is just hold your hand up and throw the ball over the head and go get it. But they literally look like he just said for somebody else to go get it. The other thing I will say is this. I want people to understand, I am a media guy that's covered this university for a long time. I am not mad at any individual player, but if you make a mistake, I'm going to call you out on it. Here's what the knock is. When Illinois signed Kasparis, Will Riley, and Abisic, people were excited, but the knock is from a lot of people, not just friends. Guys that matter to me said exactly what Brad Sturdy said. The overseas guys are not physical and they're soft. That is a true fact. Ask somebody outside your friend circle. Ask another coach. If you have any coach from anybody who has any ties to a Division I program, they will tell you that. It's a learning curve. So can they adjust to it? Yeah, because you sit in the NBA. That's why having one and done and stuff, I get it. It looks good and it sounds good. It's a great selling point. But from a physical standpoint, who was the guy or what company, Illini guys said when they lost to Northwestern, they bumped Ibiza off the block, Mike, because he couldn't get the ball. Think about it. The three best teams that they've played since then, he's not been effective. They take the three ball away from him. As soon as he sits his 7 foot, one butt on the block, they knock him off of it. And you know what he does? He accepts it. So that's the problem. They are soft, and it's not that they're bad players. It's a huge adjustment to playing American basketball. I can't tell you how many times coaches and players have said that to me. And again, the step back threes are great. The 7 turnovers to me, I've said it 20 minutes ago, I struggle with it. That's 14 points. He has to get better and tougher with the ball, or you're going to see this all season long.
Well, look, and again, I go back to the fact there's no moral victories, but despite all the stuff that we had happen today, and it wasn't a bad game for the Illini, but it wasn't a great game, with everything going on, they almost beat the number 1 team in the country. So again, back to the guy, back to the fans who are saying, they don't want to hear about these guys are developing and all that crap. I'm sorry, but that's part of what we're going to get. And if you want to compete at the highest levels, the Dukes of the world, they got a lot of great players, but they all have lack of experience, and so Duke develops over the course of the season. And what you want is Kasparis is starting to deal with defenses better. You can see him during both across multiple games and during a game. You can see him reacting to the defense and kind of going against it. What he hasn't been able to cure yet is the turnover. And so I'm hoping that he's going to get work on that. And then I just think the biggest challenge I have is the issue with I just think Morez helps more on defense, and until Rickhouse starts shooting better, I would be looking either at Morez or shifting, as you said, Cad, Will Riley over to the 4. Brad, tell me how much I'm wrong on this.
He's productive in this. I don't know if I ever see the stats, Brad. We were going over the stats, and I want to be fair to you. So when you comment, Rickhouse played 20 minutes and he had 1 rebound. That was a tip dunk. Our comment was, before you got on the air, buddy, was that Will Riley's going to give you rebounds. He's going to give you points. Rickhouse isn't making threes. Okay, so what? He's not guarding anybody either. To play 20 minutes a game at 6'9", he should give more rebounds. And this is just one game that we're talking about, but it's been all season. So, I mean, I want to be fair with you. That's what we talked about before Mike asked you the question.
Oh, you can be fair. I don't need to hear because I'm going to have my own opinion, so it's fine. So Illinois currently has the number 11 adjusted defensive efficiency in the country.
Mm-hmm.
How much better do you think you're going to get? So if you have the number 11 defense in the country, how much better are you going to get? How much? Let me finish. How much do you think his spacing affects you on offense? It allows guys like KJ and Boswell to get downhill because they have to guard him. I know a lot of people don't get this, but it's this part of it. And then the other side of it is, and I'm not saying Morez shouldn't have played more tonight. I thought he probably should have played over Ivicic. I thought Ivicic was really struggling tonight. I didn't think he was good at all. But the other thing I would say is, like, the one thing you watch on Rickhouse, like, he made a post-entry pass to Ivicic to set up a basket. He made a pass where he made a pass to get a foul. And then he had a pass where on the transition set up a Trey White 3. But I think the thing about him that is effective is his help defense. I remember, Mike, you talking about the help defense that Coleman Hawkins played.
Yep.
And this is very similar in the sense that they put him on a guy that couldn't score, and they just let him they kind of let him help. And he did so many things where he shut off gaps and angles. He did this last game too, that you kind of do. Now, does he need to rebound better? Yeah. Does he need to make open shots? Yes. But I'm not sure that you're going to get better. Right now, the biggest issue they have is offensively more than defensively. I know that fans don't want to hear that because they see this or that or whatever. But you're 11th in the country on defense. You're 29th on offense. The offense is the bigger issue. Now, if you think Morez is going to make you better offensively,
I think
maybe.
No, but I'll tell you what, though, Brad. If we're playing a possession game, which is what this was, 5 more rebounds from Morez, you might win a game because you've got another possession, maybe 2 possessions extended, and you take 3 from them, especially on a night when they had 17 or 18 offensive rebounds.
Well, here's my thing.
Yeah, so Mike, let me rebut Mike there. How many second chance points did each team have?
They both had 8 tonight.
Okay, so my question is, so even if you kept them from scoring, you didn't lose the second chance points battle. So even though they had rebounds, Illinois also had rebounds. So, I mean, I don't know that you're gaining anything in that regard.
Unless you beat them by 4 in that stat.
Okay, hang on. Here's where you're going to gain. Brad, you said numbers can be skewed, and I'm going to give you a skewed number. We can talk about them being 11th in that category all we want. I'll tell you what will happen. Will Riley shoots 45% from 3. They're going to have to guard him too. I don't care if Rickhouse is supposed to be a shooter. They're going to guard Will Riley the same way. So we can sit and say, yes, they make those adjustments, and he plays help defense. You're going to get more production from Will Riley, and they're going to guard him. Merez is not the answer on offense for me. If it was me, it would be Will Riley because he is a threat from the three. He's a threat to take you off the dribble. He's a threat from the free throw line. Merez is not. Merez is going to give you some good defense, and he's going to rebound and give you putback baskets. Riley is going to give you everything and more, and including help defense, than Rickhouse. That's the guy I think that is not helping us. I'm sorry. I love you, man. We can disagree to disagree, but they're going to guard Will Riley. They're not going to sit out there and let him shoot threes either. And if you
Here's
look
my
at numbers,
question.
yeah.
What was Will Riley tonight from the floor?
He was 1 for 8 or 9, and I believe it. Let's look at Will Riley's numbers. And this is tonight. I'm not basing this off one night, Brad. This has been a combination. Let me look at it.
Didn't Will Riley see 20 minutes?
1 for 9. He was 1 for 9. But
20 minutes, right?
Brad, he had 10 points and 5 rebounds. But he played. Brad, Will Riley played 20 minutes, okay? Ben Rickhouse played 30. Rickhouse had 5 points and 1 rebound. Will Riley played 20 minutes. He was 1 for 9, but he gave you 10 points and 5 rebounds. There's no way you can argue the fact that he's more productive because he's not, and he played 10 more minutes. And I'm not going to today's game.
Ken, what was the plus minus tonight?
Okay, that is not okay. You can get Michael that. Everybody knows I'm not a plus minus guy. I don't believe in that. I'm sorry. I'm not one of those guys. I know. I'll tell you what. I'm using the eye test, and the eye test to me is not what I tell you what. We can look at plus minuses. We can look at all the analyticals we want. You know as well as I do. Pick on him. He doesn't block out. If you go back and watch the game, how can he be 6'9", Brad, and get 1 rebound? Let's look at the games before and the ones previous to that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying kick him to the curb. What I really think should happen, put him on the bench. If he don't want to rebound, then make him rebound because you know what? You're going to give him 30 minutes a game. I wouldn't change anything either because he's going to play.
Okay, so here's my question, Ken.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the goal of your team?
To win as a team.
To get the rebound, right?
Yes.
Is Illinois a poor rebounding team?
Offensively, I think they are because he's challenged them with that. So offensively.
Oh, hang on. You think they're a poor rebounding team?
Okay, so let me ask you this: why did Brad Underwood get mad and freak out about not rebounding against Northwestern? Then he said it improved against Wisconsin. Obviously, the coach thinks so because he said it, not me. I didn't say it; he did.
But okay, so we're only going to go with what Brad Underwood says.
No, at this point right now, if I was Brad Underwood, it'd be a lot different.
What is the goal of your team? Is to get the rebound. Does Illinois do a good job rebounding? They actually did a pretty good job rebounding again in the second half. First half, Tennessee punked them, but Tennessee is a great offensive rebounding team. Just like Illinois is a great offensive rebounding team. When you look at the numbers, they are legit top 25 offensive rebounding teams. Illinois is also a legit top 25 defensive rebounding team. So again, you have to look at it in aggregate. Like your goal is to get the rebound.
He's not getting them. Is he getting them?
Your team is.
Brad, I'm going to ask you an honest question. Honestly, on the air, you're telling me right now, as a basketball coach, and you know I respect you like no other, are you telling me right now, and all the people listening to this show, that Ben Rickhouse is more effective from an offensive, defensive, and rebounding standpoint and scoring standpoint than Ben Rickhouse? That's what I'm asking you.
Then you mean Will Riley?
Yes, I'm sorry. Is Will Riley? No, is Ben more effective than Will Riley? Excuse me. Yes, with what I just said.
So I don't think it's that simple. I think Riley gets more production, but I also think the other part about this is you have to understand Will Riley is physically, he struggles with those physical games. And I thought you saw that tonight. He got bumped on easy shots when he did put the ball back. The other thing about it is in the first half when Illinois really struggled offensively, Boswell was out, and they put Will Riley in as the guard. And you saw the ball doesn't, when Riley isn't a scorer. He's an isolation scorer. He's a great scorer. He's fantastic in that regard. But he's not a ball mover.
I agree.
He doesn't. And so what happens is you can't just say, well, this guy scored, so he's good. I mean, it doesn't always work that way. And so at the end of the day, if Will Riley, I mean, is Will Riley more productive than Trey White offensively? I would argue that he is. But we aren't but we don't want to get rid of Trey White, or we don't want to bench him, or we don't want to not play him minutes. I mean, so is he more productive than? I mean, I think that if anything, when Rickhouse is out, I think the guy that probably shouldn't have gone in is Jake Davis.
Well,
I think you get with Trey White at the 4 and using Riley at the 3. But I don't, and so that's my kind of thing. Like, I mean, that's my issue with all of this. It becomes like, well, this guy's this, and that's the guy's that, and so forth.
It's okay, but Brad, it's okay to change though, too. You know what I'm saying to you? And it's okay because you know what? Trey White wasn't productive. He was sitting. He's only playing 10 minutes a game. It's not that. I mean, I'm mad. I just don't. To me, this is a good team. And I think from an offensive, defensive standpoint and rebounding, he's going to produce. If you give him 30 minutes a game, and here's the thing with him. I know Riley's a freshman, and I agree with you about this whole, overseas thing. Will Riley is aggressive. He is not timid. When they go back to the Northwestern game, when everything was dead, this kid is trying to make something happen. Ben is not going to put the ball on the floor. And I feel bad for the kid. All he does is shoot threes, and I think that does him a disservice. You and I both did a podcast when they picked him up and the pick and roll action, how effective he is. He is just a three-point shooter. That's all he is for Illinois. And I don't think he's effective doing that.
But that's what they want him to do. I mean, that's what I asked him about. And he told him, I said he's taking 56 threes and 11 twos. Do you want him to be more diverse in his offense? He said, no, I'm mad that he took the 11 twos. Exact quote from Underwood.
I know.
So if Underwood wants that, so you just told me if Underwood said it, then it must be true. So he said it, so it must be true. So using that logic,
no matter what we think anyway, he's going to play him.
But here's my thing. Why not? I think Will Riley. I mean, we could make arguments that Will Riley was, they didn't have him in at the end of this game tonight, which hurt them because I think they had him at the end of the Northwestern game. He took a couple bad shots, made a couple bad plays. And I think that hurt them tonight because offensively, I would like him to be in at the end of the game. I really would. I think he's a guy who can score. But at the same time, I don't know that he wants the ball. Like, he's a guy who has to kind of have the ball to be productive. And
right.
So then it runs the thing. Like, so I think there's only the problem Illinois has in some regards is there's only so many balls to go around. They're gonna run ball screens. There was one game there today. They ran like 84 ball screens.
It was 93 is what they said tonight, which was
it? Yeah, it's insane. And so they're running, but they run KJ. They have to run Boswell, and then they got to put Will Riley in so he can get his in ball screens. So if you're a guy like, you look at, there's only so many balls to go around. So we may want Rickhouse to do more, but then that takes the ball out of other guys' hands. And then we want Trey White to maybe run some more ISOs and booty ball for him. But we can't because we only have so many. I mean, this is a 61-62 possession game tonight. Very limited amount of offense. And you turn it over 11 times. So you got 50 times, right, that you're going to actually have an opportunity to run offense.
So I tell players, Brad, at that point, if you want the ball, then go get the rebound. I mean, seriously, I hate to say that, but, if there was – I just think, again, I'm happy. Again, I'm a developmental guy, and I've already taken hits from some of the fans who don't want to hear about how the Illini are developing well. But I think this team's on a good journey, and I don't mind Rickhouse learning the game. I do think though that somebody needs to light a fire, because if you're trying to, one of the things that an NBA player told my son one time is he said, if you're trying to make your living as a 3-point shooter, you're making your life really hard. And he goes, so if you're gonna be a 3-point shooter, that's great, but you better go grab some damn rebounds, and you better be able to guard somebody, so that on the nights you're cold, coach wants to keep you on the floor.
That's all.
And that's what And I do think that we saw with that nice putback. I think he can do some rebounding. I just think he's got to unlock the key.
He's just not a physical player. I mean, he's not, and that's not a bad thing. He's just, there was rebounds where they literally just pushed him out of the way, and that's what's hard because he is a big body. He's tall. He's just not an aggressive guy to me, and And I don't understand that. He's too big of a player. And Brad, trust me, I know what Underwood wants from them. The last game or the game before, he was 1 for 9 for threes. They want him to shoot threes. I agree with you. I just think if you give Will Riley those looks like that many times, shooting 40-something%, the percentages are there. If we're going to be analytical, he's going to make some of those. And you get the good with the bad with Will sometimes, but you get that with KJ. Hell, he has 7 turnovers tonight. So if you can live with that with him, I can live with it with Will.
Well, look, and I think, Coach, I mean, this team, like I said, with this much youth, and if you would tell me that basically Ivisic was going to no-show tonight's game, although I guess that's not fair. He had 12 rebounds, but from a scoring standpoint, he was going to no-show.
Let me hang on those rebounds real quick. You realize that the rebounds, when he would tip it out to other guys, they go to him.
Yep, they do.
So he gets the rebound, even though another guy corrals the ball.
Right. No, I'm saying, though, but beyond the rebounding, he had a rough night.
He did. He missed a lot of inside shots. I thought, and there were other things, like I thought he was really soft tonight. I thought he was soft. I thought he really struggled with that. And that's just, so he's better than that. He's more talented. And I guess my thing is this, like, the other part about Rickhouse defensively is what they're asking him to do is not guard a guy. And we saw that against Arkansas. Just don't guard this guy. And then that guy is going to get a head of steam. So you're helping, and then you got to go find him, block him out, and then go get the rebound, which he does not have the athleticism to do.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so don't put him in that position then, right?
That's tough. See, I know what Brad is saying, and he's right. And they do that because he's not a great defender, so they doink him is what they call it. But it is tough. I mean, it is really hard, especially if they're going to shoot a 15-foot shot, because your natural reaction is to go get a rebound, but you can't do that. You got to put a body on someone. And maybe that's why he's struggling. And, and I get that.
And so he's got to be the help guy. So if you're the help guy, and you go help on that guy, and he misses that shot, and Illinois is number 1 in the country in effective field goal percentage against at 41.1%. It's just amazing. But then somebody's got to get the rebound. And so if he's over there helping, his man basically has free run to the rim. Now, that didn't happen. I'm not saying that happens all the time. Because there was one tonight where he blocked a guy out. The ball literally bounced in front of him. He couldn't get released because he's not athletic enough to go get it. I mean, he just couldn't do it. I mean, just physically, you watched him. He was like trying to get it. He didn't have the quickness to go get it. And obviously, Tennessee had some quick guys. So, but then there was another play where he just got, you're right, kid. He does get shoved out of the way. And he's got to get tougher. I mean, but I don't know that that's him, only him. Outside of Kylan Boswell, Kylan Boswell's tough. Boswell is a tough kid, man. Trey White's a tough kid. The rest of those guys are still a little young and soft right now. And I think Perez is tough. Don't get me wrong. Perez is tough. But I think
that's my point, Brad, is that this team is developing. And I know, again, there's a segment of fans who don't want to hear that. But you can't do something before you know how to do it. And to me, to me, this team is the last 5 minutes. Their execution on the offensive end gets a little sketchy. And I think that's partially because a lot of guys can't get their own shot. And I think KJ is still getting used to being defended by guys who are super athletic, who are allowed to get under him like it's not allowed in Europe. And he's got to learn how to get his way through that.
Can I ask you guys a question, what your thoughts are? Do you feel like KJ's worn down at the end of games?
Yes, he plays a lot of minutes, Brad. You know what? So somebody asked me, Brad, he plays like 38 to 40 minutes a game. I think he's tired.
I agree. I mean, Terrence Shannon was a different level athlete last year. Marcus Damask was a fifth-year senior going through all this stuff. KJ's an 18-year-old kid. I mean, say what you want, you're not the same when you're 18 as you are when you're 22, or they just all go to the NBA, right? So you change. But so I just don't know that. I think it's too many minutes, and I know maybe foul trouble because you have to have him or Boswell on the floor all the time, right? One of them has to be on there, I would think. But I don't know. It seems like, and then they run him through so much that and then he has to go guard on the other end. You're making him guard Ziegler, or you're making him guard Gainey, or you're making him guard the guy who made all shots in the first half. But you're making him guard one of those three guys all the time, chasing them off screens, running them off ball screens, getting over it. and then you say, hey, and then go play offense, and then go rebound, and then do. I mean, it's for 38 minutes a game. That's tough.
It's too bad. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Fears didn't want to stick around because those two guys could have. You could have got each of them about 30 minutes a game, and the 10 minutes that they were both out on the court together would be freaking scary, and then they could get plenty of shots when the other guy was resting.
Well, when Brad asked that question, honestly, I had a friend text me, and here's exactly what this said. I'm going to pick up my little handy phone, and it says, it's good to see KJ play that many minutes, but in March, he's going to wear down, and the shots that he's making, they might not be there. He's playing too many minutes. That is what people – and I agree with you. That's why managing the first half, to me, if Draymond's not going to kill you, give him 5 or 7 more minutes a game, because playing 38 minutes a game is, and like you said, he has the ball in his hands. Everybody's expecting him to be Magic Johnson or, to shoot threes,
Yep.
And it is tough for him. It is, and maybe that's why he turns the ball over. I don't know. I don't think that's why half the time, but I know he's trying to make stuff happen. Nobody's trying to lose games, but I do think at some point in time, this is going to wear him down. I really do think so. That's a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's fair to look at that. I think, and I think you talked about it in both of us. You guys have talked about it in the past that if Ivisic needs a little bit of rest occasionally too, which gives you opportunities to give him a blow, and it also gives you opportunities to get Morez on the court. And I think with KJ, I do think you're running a lot tighter of a trapeze line there. Trying to figure out. You can't have him on the floor or off the floor too long, but you do need to make sure that when the last 5 minutes he's ready to go. And I don't know what you do in practice, Brad, but I mean I think whoever's guarding him, you almost have to allow them to foul him mercilessly, because that's the way games are called nowadays, and he's got to get used to it because it's not Europe anymore. And trust me, he's playing. He's putting up. He's putting up. He had 22 points in a game that he wasn't shooting well. So I'm not complaining, but I'm just talking his development as a player. They're going to have to help him get through that.
He had a freshman record. I don't know if you guys know this, Brad. You were at the game. I got to know it in, but there was a freshman record. He was the first freshman in Illinois basketball history to score 20 points in a game in 5 consecutive games. So he's scoring.
Yeah. Did you guys hear the official explanation for he got raked on the arm at the end there by one possession before the sideline out of bounds that got went for the pick 2 dunk on the other end.
Yeah, Brad was hot.
Yep.
And Brad was hot. Brad spent the whole time out.
Yes.
Yelling at the official instead of in the huddle, and I get it. He's upset, but somebody's got to design somebody's got to be in there calling out a play, what we're going to do, and be the coach, right, at that point. So, but he was talking to him, and the official told him that if you're not in a shooting motion, then it's not a foul, even if they hit him across the arm.
What the hell is that? Are you serious?
That's what he said. He said, and so Brad Tucker said, I'm going to call the officials guy and director guy, and he's going to find out, because he's like, I've never heard of that in 38 years of coaching, that you can whack that across the arm, but if he's not, and when he goes up, but if he's not in a shooting motion, then it's not a foul. I mean, don't we see that in the NBA all the time? Guys stick their arms in there.
Tonight? There was one tonight, Brad. I don't know if it was Kylan Boswell. Somebody literally took the ball right in front of the guy's bench, and they called a foul. He didn't get hit on the arm. I mean, it was clear. If you watch the game again, you see what I'm talking about.
Jake Davis took one. Jake Davis tied a guy up, and they called him for a foul.
Yes, it was Mike Davis. Yes. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. It was Mike Davis. Sorry, wrong guy.
Yeah, it was really weird. They showed the replay on there, and it was like, what? So I don't know. There were a lot of weird calls, but I think that one, I'll tell you why that happened. Fouls were 6-1 at that point, and they can call a foul on Jake Davis, and nobody cares.
That's exactly what was going on, yes. Yeah, that was
Davis,
clear.
nobody cares. He doesn't do. I mean, I'm not nothing against him, but I'm going to make this call. I'm going to start to level these out a little bit with a call on Jake Davis in a situation that really doesn't affect the game, and so I can even them out. I mean, and this happens in basketball. I know people don't. Officials do this stuff. So I don't know. I do think KJ had 7 turnovers, but a lot of those are like just he gets too deep and tries to do too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd like to see him maybe, I don't know. There's a couple where deflected pass that happens, but almost most of those were like he's driving in there and trying to just, I don't know what he's trying to make something happen. When there's not really anything there, and it was very unlike him. But I think Tennessee speeds you up. They really do speed you up defensively. So I tweeted this. Tennessee, the last 5 years, they've been 5, 3, 1, 3, and this year they're 1. 5 years in a row in the top 5 in adjusted defensive efficiency.
They guard.
So they can guard.
Like great help defense. They guard. We talked about that before you got in the air, Brad. If you try to drive the lane, there's help defense every time. And there was possessions. I challenge anybody to watch the game. They block out so well, the ball could hit the floor. I know you remember that drill where you teach the team.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Brad, they do an unbelievable. I knew they were good defensively coming in there, but if you want to know how to block out and play defense, they show it.
And they're athletic enough to go get the ball after they block out too.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that Illinois is going to have to figure out because, you've got a few players there who just aren't as quick as some of the competition, which means you have to block out. You have to do some of those fundamentals, which generally European players are fairly well versed at doing that because their whole, much more of their focus on development is on training in the practice scenario where you do reps over and over. And like I said, I think there's some adaptation to your game that needs to be done. And when I look at what KJ's doing now, as frustrating as I find the turnovers, it's pretty damn amazing where he's at right now. And he's amazing. Only, 11 games in?
Yep, 10.
Okay, yeah. So I'm giving him, not even giving him his due.
Their top 6 guys, let's say I'll put Draven as 7 just because it makes we'll put Will Riley as the 6th guy. I would say 4 of their top 6 are, Will's probably an average athlete at this level, but I think KJ and Ivicic and Henriquez are all probably below average athletes out on the floor tonight compared to other guys. From a quickness and leaping and just explosion standpoint compared to the guys on Tennessee. I think Trey White's at Boswell. Boswell's pretty quick. But he's not big. He's small, and Trey White's a good athlete. But they're not the most athletic team. Is my point. This is not. Draven is athletic. He's crazy athletic, no question. But they're not an athletic group. So when you're not a very athletic group, and you aren't shooting well, it's amazing. They're probably amazing. They're 7-3 right now. But I think we've seen when they do shoot well, like against Arkansas, they're going to be really good. And that's where they have to be. They have to start making shots.
Yeah, start making some shots. And like I said, it's in a game like this where there's so little, and I think, again, this is how you teach a team. But in a game like this, you have the opportunity to go out there then and show them how important 1 or 2 possessions is. Yep. And if you eliminate 2 turnovers and you get 2 more rebounds, you might win this game despite not shooting well. Because I think probably the biggest untold story of this Illinois team that absolutely no one, you talked about it a little bit, Brad, but that's about the only time I've heard it. Tennessee came in and was held to 32% shooting from a team that's largely a bunch of guys who weren't playing at Illinois last year. You would not have thought, if I told you the number 1 team was going to come in here and shoot 32%, nobody would have believed me, and we probably would have assumed Illinois would win. But but Tennessee did even better and 29% at Illinois back. My biggest issue when people say Illinois needs to shoot better is if they're just a bunch of bad shooters. Is Tennessee had a lot to do with that 29%.
Yeah, just like Illinois did with them. Hey, the other one is, who do you think would be a great person to be at that power forward spot to rebound and be tough and could also attack the basket a little bit? Do you think of anybody who would fit that role? Anybody? Maybe sitting on the bench in street clothes?
Yeah, well,
Ty Rogers, Mike's been saying it forever.
I've been saying
it
I've been taking crap from the messages of people who think that when I suggested Ty Rogers for for that I took a lot of flack. So go ahead, Brad.
No,
your turn.
I'll take flack for it because I think Ty Rogers is when you set up this team, you were planning on him playing a role. I mean, that was part of the plan. We talked about Rickhouse playing too many minutes. That's part of the reason he's playing too many minutes. I know he's a floor spacer, but Ty Rogers is different. You need to stop at the end of the game. I mean, I'd rather have Ty Rogers out there. I'm not gonna lie, over than Craig White, Will Riley, or Ben Rickhouse. Give me him over any of those guys. So, or KJ for that matter on defense, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I can't argue with you because we talked about that earlier. I really thought that it was, Ty would have made a difference, and especially like even just that last play, Kasparis was kind of back on his heels and never, when you watch it on TV on that last drive, he just got off balance in his back pedal and he never really gathered himself. And then Ivicic and Boswell, neither one of them came to help, and it was just a rough play for.
Can I ask you another question about that last play?
Yeah.
If Ziegler spelled out, Lanier spelled out, so Gainey's the only guy left.
Yep.
Why isn't Kylan Boswell on him at the end of the game on the last play?
I think they got mixed up. I really do think that's why Brad would have called timeout. The guy holding the clipboard would have given the matchups. I just think the matchups, that's just, okay, Brad admitted to not calling timeout. Maybe he should have. I don't know, but
yeah.
I agree with
he did say he should have called timeout. But I think even a team like, and I'm not absolving Underwood because I think he should have called timeout instead of defense there in that situation. But at the same time, tell them, hey, go get the block a shot, whatever, crack down from the weak side. There's no time to kick out, whatever. Talk to them about it. But my thing would be like, why wouldn't you want your Boswell's their best perimeter defender? Put him on the ball. It didn't make sense to me. It really didn't.
Well,
I just didn't.
Yeah, and I'm horrible because I hate in a situation like that giving them an easy inbound. I'll put somebody down. I'll put somebody on the inbounder just to make them have to create an angle that takes and gives you another second or two because the guy's got to dribble the ball farther. And I know that's
bounds. Who took it out? Gainey took it out of bounds. White was kind of pressuring up the floor, and when Gainey went past him, White just kind of stayed behind him.
Yeah,
but
he had a great view.
Yeah, it was good. You got to watch it. Illinois ball watched a lot, occasionally, at times. But I think some of it they get tired. I don't know, but yeah, I think the timeout would have been big. I think Underwood should have called timeout there. You can basically talk about not executing out of bounds plays and not calling timeout. Those are probably the two biggest coaching errors that I saw tonight that weren't good. They have to be better if they're going to be successful. So.
And I'll be honest, I'm going to go back. So there's a lot of people here who aren't old, but the fact of the matter is, I feel like I'm watching some of those teams develop of the early 80s because there was a time when you didn't know what Derek Harper was going to do. You knew he was damn good, but you didn't know exactly what he was going to do. There was a time where Bruce Douglas had to figure out like what his role was. And I feel like that's the part we're in right now. And yeah, I would love if Illinois was 10-0 right now, but they're not. And I feel like they're getting better as we go on. I mean, you look at that original scrimmage that they look like, oh my God, are they in trouble? And certainly they've had some bad moments, but I do think a little bit is just fixing the little stuff, and they should be okay. But again, that's what coaches are for, is to get these guys through those things.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's 10 new players, right?
Yeah, and I think that's as big of an issue as we say young, but it's the fact they're all new. They're trying to learn together. There was actually a question in the presser tonight talking about Rick Barnes about why his guys get so much better their second year after they transfer or if they come in. Well, They know what they're doing. They know the system. They're comfortable. So honestly, what Illinois' done with the whole new roster early in the season, we said this team's going to struggle early and be really good by March.
Yep.
They probably haven't struggled as much. The surprising thing to me is their offense. I thought their offense would be better, but they've been better defensively than I expected, especially after watching that Ole Miss game or the Alabama game. I mean, they were
way better. They're way better on defense.
Yeah, I mean, way better. But I think, that was surprising to me. But I think once the offense starts clicking, it seems going to be really good. And so they'll be what we kind of expected, and at the end of the year, if they can get the offense kind of going. And right now they certainly, if they're a team that's relying on their defense to hang around, which is totally surprising to me.
I agree. If you would have told me that at the start of the year, I'd have said you need some counseling, Brad.
Yeah, you're insane.
All right, so let's wrap this up. And I think again, I think a couple things. One is this team. To me, you'd have liked to have seen wins at Northwestern and here, but you got other teams that also wanted to win. And there's plenty that this team can work on to get better. And come a week from tomorrow, they're going to have another pretty tough game when they play a Missouri team in the bragging rights game. And I think that's another opportunity for Illinois to put it together and see what we can do. Because I think the last 5 minutes of a game, if they start figuring that out, they do pretty good the first 35 minutes.
Well, I'll close with this. One thing I need to tell all the listeners out there who listen to me, one, Ben Rickhouse is going to play. It doesn't matter what I say or anybody else. I know fans want to see Morez Johnson play. He's going to play the same amount of minutes that he's getting right now. So we can stop asking that question. You can stop texting me. You can stop tweeting at me. If you think Coach Underwood is going to listen to me or to you, you are kidding yourself, because Ben is going to play 25, 30 to 35 minutes a game, and Morez is going to get 10 or 12. It's not changing. From the game standpoint, they let one slip away today. This could have been a program game changer on so many levels. I don't have time to talk about it. They let it slip away. Now you got to beat Missouri, and if you got a chance to beat Duke on a neutral court, you better find a way to win.
Yeah, I'm not against. I'm not. I do think. I mean, the one thing I'll say, I think Underwood will change, but it takes him longer than maybe we would, because I look at Justin Harmon last year. He was playing big minutes early, went on that shooting slump, and then he's playing 10. Dane Danger didn't play at all early. Ends up being a key player down the stretch. So I think he will adjust. We'll see. I don't think he knows what he has right now. Last year, at least he knew he had Terrence Shannon. He knew he had Coleman, what he got from Coleman Hawkins. So I think he's trying to figure it out, just like we are. Now, and I'm going to agree with Ted. I think Rickhouse, I think they all play too many minutes, but that's just me. I'd like to see Rickhouse play 25 minutes instead of 35. But 30 tonight I didn't think was that bad. But I'd like to see Will Riley play 20, more like 25, Rickhouse, because I think they have value. The other thing I think that this team has to do, though, is they just have to handle getting bumped. They're just not used to it. And they have to, stop playing to get fouled. And I think KJ does that. I would say at least 3 of his turnovers were him trying to get fouled. You know what I mean? I think when you're trying to get fouled, it's the one, they don't call it. And 2, it makes it so that, if they're not calling that foul, then you end up with a turnover, and you end up, not getting back on defense. It ends up in a run-out transition action. So, yeah, I think that this team has a long way to go on the offensive end, but they're not. They're okay. They're just not. I mean, you lost number 1. Yeah, it was at home, and yeah, it was a game you kind of gave away. But at the end of the day, you got to keep putting yourself in positions to win these games against quality competition. Like you mentioned, Ked, Missouri is one of those games you got to win. It's a game you really need to win, because you don't want to go 7-4 in your non-conference. With Duke still looming. So if you win that game, worst you can do in non-conference is 8-3. And so I think you're in, because you're not losing to Chicago State, hopefully. But I think that's where you're kind of, that's it's not, I wouldn't say it's a must-win game, but I think it is, especially when you want to get seeding, right? So if you want to get certain seeding, in the NCAA tournament, you got to win that game because that's going to matter because they're SEC. It's going to end up being a quality win at the end of the season.
Yeah, there's a lot to play for, and the thing I thought we were going to see by now, Brad, that we haven't, is I thought with this many young players and inexperienced Big Ten players and this many new players, I thought we were going to see one really, really bad stinker game by now. So I hope that's not in the future, but I think this team has avoided the really, really rough outing. And of course,
first half tonight was pretty ugly, Mike, for both teams. That was bad. That was hard to watch. My eyes started bleeding about 3 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah, but that was the refs, Brad. I mean, they there's no way anybody. I don't care. You could have played the Jordan's Bulls against the Golden State Warriors with that type of. I don't know how anybody gets any type of momentum the way that first half was called. But I guess my point is I really think this team has been surprising because they do compete and they find ways to keep games close, even if they're struggling. And I do think that they've got to figure out, how to get used to the physical contact because it's going to keep piling up as the Big Ten season, goes. Teams are going to do, Ked's right. Teams are going to go, okay, Ivasic doesn't like getting pushed off the block, so we'll see how he likes it when we move him out to the 3-point line, every play. And you're going to see things like that happen. But so far, I think they're on pace fairly well. But you gotta get that last 5 minutes of the game. You got to figure out your offense going down the stretch, and they need somebody to become a consistent threat besides KJ when the game's on the line. And I think that will solve a lot of problems, because last year, you have Terrence Shannon Jr. and that takes care of a lot of problems, but you needed Domask to come out. And then all of a sudden Illinois became really formidable. All right, folks, that is the podcast for tonight. We will see you folks later in the week. It's going to be a little bit of a slow week for us, although I will have the heat checks and Hail Marys out tomorrow night, so be looking for that. Ked will be simmering on slow burn as he thinks about this game up in the Quad Cities. When you put this, a close loss coupled with freezing rain and ice everywhere just makes for a frustrated man.
You're right, Mike. I was so looking forward to this, and I woke up this morning and there's just ice everywhere. Everybody knows I had a hip replacement. My doctor said one thing you can't do is slip and fall. And when I went outside to my truck and I won't slip, I'm like, nope, it's not worth it.
That's good. We do not want anybody hurt. Well, folks, look, here's the other thing. It's that time of year. We put together a website and we cover Illini sports. We try to keep it positive. We try to laugh. We try to be honest. And if you enjoy that, it does cost us dollars to send people out to games, to send people to get articles written by people like Ked, Brad, Matt. And those things are not, they're not for free. So if you want to subscribe to IlliniGuys.com, $99 a year, we would love it. It helps us pay for travel. It helps us pay for, getting people to games and getting you that Illini coverage. And we will keep it that way. If you want to have fun, you want to talk to people, you want to listen to people talk about games who've both played the sport and coached the sports. That's kind of the niche we fall into. We also laugh at ourselves. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And we hope that when you listen to us, whether it's Eye on the Illini, whether it's the Illini Guys Sports Spectacular or our Big Sports Radio or my Heat Checks and Hail Marys or Ked's Recruiting Roundup or Sturdy for 30, at the end of it, we try to keep it positive so you're not angry when you turn it off. There's plenty of people who are trying to make you mad. If you appreciate us, any support that you can get would be greatly appreciated, and we would love to have that. So you go to IlliniGuys.com, subscribe, and that will get you access to our message boards. You get all the stories with no blocking from the paywall. You get them earlier. And with the message boards, you can get them coming in. You can get in and send messages to Brad, to Larry, to Ked, to Matt, myself. It's not just a one-way trip where you're just reading our stuff. You're actually interacting. We would love to have you there as well. And if you like the videos, you can get this by going to IlliniGuys.com on YouTube. That's our channel. And of course, you can subscribe to our podcasts on your favorite podcast distributor. But again, if you want to join that huge community of people who are Illini Guys subscribers and go back and forth with Illini fans across the world, please go there and join now. Until next time, folks, go Illini.